Let's see. We're live. We're live, Baruch Hashem. Okay. A little late, but live. There we go. I'm going to start in a minute or two. Let's see. Testing sound. Sound check. Okay, very good. Okay. YouTube, you guys are on. Okay. TikTok, you guys still around. That's good. All right. All right. Hashem. Facebook, you guys still need log on. Baruch, any thoughts? Moshe. All right, very good. See, sound check. Okay, that's good. Last time, 30 seconds. B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back, Baruch Hashem, on our Wednesday night, Stump the Rabbi, our ongoing series, getting closer and closer to 200 shiurim in this series alone. We're at episode 198. And certainly it's an episode coming at or shiur, I should say, a shiur coming at a perfect time for many people. For many people, and BeEzrat HaShem, we will succeed in helping many people understand what's going on in the world today, because certainly there is an endless amount of confusion that is causing a lot of people a lot of anguish. Tonight's shiur is going to be, it's Eilui Nishmat. I don't have the name in front of me. Don't have the name in front of me. Do I have it? Okay. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the Ilui Nishmat of the Giveret that passed on, that I forgot to put the name in front of me, but of course HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what's in my heart. Also for the Refuah Shlema, for Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, Talia bat Sarah, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahides, the BeEzrat HaShem will have a Refuah Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf. So tonight's shiur, we're going to go into Parashat Tzav, which BeEzrat HaShem will give you some Divrei Torah that are not only relevant to the parasha, but also in B'darkenu B'Kodesh, in our way of holiness. We always have to connect the Torah to what's happening in the world today. And as I've always told you over the last decade, anytime you have any type of issue, you can certainly look into that week's parasha and you will find answers. So one of the big questions that people have, and of course after the Dvar Torah, you guys can start asking questions. Usually the Dvar Torah is about an hour or so. But I wouldn't recommend anybody logging off and logging back in an hour, just simply because the information that you'll have in the first hour is going to be no less important than the questions that you have on your mind already. And the biggest question that everyone has in mind as we speak is, why is the world turning against the Jewish people? Why is the world turning against the Jewish people? Of course, you have the war that started by Hamas terrorists, by the Palestinians that are behind Hamas terrorists. This is not two different people. Started on October 7th, unprovoked, and of course everyone will, that wants to see the truth will agree that we could just continue past that point. Anyone that already has a predisposition that the Jewish people are horrible, and Zionism is behind all the evil in the world, and all that other stuff that people say on anti-Semitic channels. Simply put, you could just simply log off, because you're not really going to like what's going to be said tonight, because it's not going to be relevant to your predisposition. But nonetheless, the October 7th attack and the murder of a couple of thousand Jewish people and some non-Jews in Eretz Yisrael, in their houses, in the streets, the mutilations, the rape, the hostage taking, and all that's happened over the that time should make it very, very clear to everyone that Israel needs to go to war and eliminate the enemy and anyone that supports the enemy. But of course, this did not play out as well as logic says, but rather the opposite, where literally from the moment of the attack, you already saw the enemies of Israel initially celebrate it, then deny it, and then somehow convince some of the people that are either in the middle, neutral, not so caring about Israel, or even some of the friends of Israel, to turn against Israel. Most notably what's happening in the recent weeks, where the United States government looks like it's turning its back on Israel to a certain extent, which many people are surprised by it. But anyone that has learned Torah for long enough knows that this is not surprising at all. And in fact, the horrible news that many people may not want to realize or may not want to face today is that it's only going to get worse as we get closer to Mashiach. Now, the getting worse may have ups and downs. It may get worse, then get better, then get worse, until it gets really, really bad at the time of Mashiach, where when the Mashiach arrives, we will be at the climax of historical anti-Semitism. So whatever you thought was bad during the destruction of the first Bet HaMikdash, the second Bet HaMikdash, the pogroms, the Inquisition, in the Spanish Inquisitions, all of the horrible things and the murders and the complete annihilation of Jewish communities, based on the teachings of the church by the Crusaders for hundreds of years, or even more recently, and what happened in the Holocaust some 80 years ago or so. All of that will be nothing in comparison to what's going to be when the Mashiach arrives. And of course, once the Mashiach arrives, as the prophet says, Beruach piv yamit rasha, he will destroy the enemies simply with the words that are of holiness that come out of his mouth. But until then, Rabotai Yekarim, it's going to get very, very ugly. And some of the friends of Israel will decide that they don't want to be friends anymore. Some of the ones that are perhaps neutral may become friends. And in fact, even some enemies may realize that they're making a mistake, maybe not on a national level, but on an individual level. Either way, it's going to be very, very interesting, to say it in a humorous way to a certain extent, in these coming years. And what we're seeing right now is nothing in comparison. But nonetheless, everyone is very upset about what's happening in the world, where 20 years ago, if somebody said an anti-Semitic remark, needless to say, if they publicized it, in some type of media, they would immediately be rebuked. They would potentially lose their job, business contacts, customers. They would lose. They would simply lose, and certainly they would be silenced. But today, and especially what's happening in the last several months, anti-Semitism is running rampant to such an extent that you have literally channels, major channels on social media, on YouTube, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Rumble and all of these other social media outlets. Facebook, of course, one of the social playgrounds of terrorists. They're literally harboring and facilitating terrorism to a certain extent by giving these anti-Semitic people a stage unlike any other physical stage that anybody can get. Because even if somebody was very popular and was able to rent out the biggest football stadium out there, at best they'll be able to get 90,000 people to watch and listen to their nonsense, to listen to the venom coming out of their mouth. But today with social media, in a matter of hours, a person could spit out a lot of anti-Semitism, a lot of hatred, a lot of lies, and get millions of people to not only listen, but support it, and in fact, even add to it. It's become a popular thing, an in thing to do as far as anti-Semitism. And one of the places that I saw this recently is after a few people brought to my attention what the Rasha, Merusha, Shmuli Boteach has been up to lately. This is a person that I warned you about 5 years ago in multiple lectures. Although he poses as America's rabbi, and he was famous on social media, and the rabbi of Michael Jackson, we already brought you many different reasons of why he is not only not a representation of Judaism, but he is wicked, he's considered a heretic, and he's obviously somebody that's deranged and out of his mind, seeking attention at all costs, whether it's writing a heretical book called Kosher Jesus, or many other heretical books, or partnering with pornography stars in order to make more money and to sell more books, or to simply give his daughter the guidance, if you can call it guidance from the Satan maybe, the guidance and the support and even the publicity of a sex store. Now, of course, this is something we brought to you 5 years ago, and the Jewish world sat silent. Of course, the people that watch my lectures were, very receptive to it, stayed away from this clown, and that was it. But unfortunately, the greater Jewish world, especially the leaders among the Jewish world, sat silent as this spiritual monster who calls himself a rabbi continued doing what he's been doing for many years, and just pretty much fiending for attention like a crack addict fiends for drugs, and at all costs. And most recently, he got the attention of many people with what happened after October 7th, but especially anyone that was not supportive of Israel, or even said some criticizing remarks about how Israel is fighting the war, which of course, is in itself something that is a mockery in itself. Someone that's not in a war is going to tell you how to fight a war. It's really stupid, but nonetheless, everyone that has a camera and a microphone today thinks they're an expert in anything they talk about. Needless to say, this Shmuli Boteach has been fighting against different people that do not agree with the Israel has a right to defend itself how it sees fit. Not how the right to defend itself, but simply how it sees fit. They simply don't agree. Apparently, Gaza has turned into a kindergarten, because according to the statistics, they'll tell you in the media, it has pretty much only babies and just a few terrorists. That's all it has. It just has a few terrorists, few adults, and tens of thousands of babies. Apparently, there's no adults there, and therefore, the only people Israel is killing in these bombings and the war and the attack and everything else, they're only killing babies, according to the media, as they would like for you to believe. Needless to say, when America goes to war, they don't kill babies. When Russia's going to war, they don't kill babies. When the countries in Africa go to war. No babies are being killed. In fact, nobody ever kills babies. No one has ever killed a baby. No one's ever killed a child. They don't even kill pets. Only Israel, apparently, is the baby killer. Now, of course, I've already told you, in a shiur, according to the Torah, when you are at war, there is no time for mercy, which means you're not seeking out to go and kill any children, but there's no time and there's no permission to have mercy to the point where you are endangering your soldiers and your people because you're careful specifically to target just the enemy, to the extent where you are, fighting a war with two hands behind your back, like the world wants us to fight. Needless to say, there are certainly an endless amount of reasons to criticize Israel. The way they're fighting the war is not one of them. You can criticize them for not fighting the war like you're supposed to fight a war, which is to be a lot more aggressive than what they're being, but the world is choosing to criticize them for being too vicious, apparently. I wonder if anyone has ever reviewed the wars of any other country in history and compared them to this and perhaps arrived at the same results. Either way, point being is, Shmuli Boteach, the Rasha, the Merusha, even though he's a Jew, even though he's supposedly defending Israel, all he's doing is just getting himself more attention. He cares less about Israel. He cares less about the Jewish people. He cares less about God. He only cares about Shmuli. That's all he cares about. And anyone that's going to give him attention, that's where he's going to go. And recently he had some arguments on social media with the other antithetical organization run by a Jew called Ben Shapiro, which we also warned you about. One of the people that works there, and they got into an argument, and long story short, from what I've been told, she was fired because she apparently took it overboard with her comments, with her anti-Semitism, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care about the theatrics between the two of them, attention-seeking so-called religious people. Her representing Christianity, and he represents Judaism. If these are representation of religion, we might as well become atheists. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us rules. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us clarification. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a map, which is the Torah. And this Torah tells us why everything happened and why everything is happening. So when you look at the thread of different fights between these clowns that call themselves religious, whether it's the former employee of Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's ex-best friend, and Kanye West's best friend, current best friend, and her name escapes me, but Shem Reshaim Yerkav anyway, or you are going and looking at the stupidity coming out of Shmuli Boteach and his theatrics with his costume, playing the victim again. Poor me, I'm a Jew, I have a big nose, I only care about money. He puts some writing on it that apparently is referring to the woman that he was going against, and he has some really classless, tasteless behavior. And of course he has the cup where he says, oh, this is Christian blood, he is a stereotypical Jew, blah, blah, blah. Now, with all that being aside, the scariest part of these social media theatrics is the comments. When you look at the comments, you see what people really believe. And you see average, everyday folks, blue-collar folks, all types of people from America, from around the world, literally spitting venom about how much they hate the Jewish people, how every bad thing that happens is the Jewish people's fault. And literally, it's gotten to the point where you see people not only perfectly comfortable spinning out anti-Semitism, but to the point where if you were able to kill somebody through the screen, you would have a pogrom every 5 minutes. You'd literally have a pogrom. If somehow the artificial intelligence industry, upgrades ChatGPT, upgrades, Claude, upgrades all of these, interesting and resourceful softwares that they're creating to allow people to kill through artificial intelligence through the screen by simply making a comment on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube, you'd have pogroms. You'd have pogroms from these comments. So to stop all of this is not going to happen. So don't look for a solution to stop it by simply making another video saying, we're not guilty, we are guilty, we're not this, we're not... Forget all of that. Anyone that tells you that the Jewish Defense League or any of these so-called anti-Semitism organizations are going to do anything for the Jewish people, just see what they did for us before the Holocaust, and you expect the same results. They did nothing for us back then. They've done nothing for us throughout history, and the reality is many of them have even created anti-Semitism. But nonetheless, you have to understand that all of this is through the divine hand. Meaning, as the Gemara in Masechet Chulin, page 7, says, nothing happens, not even a prick on somebody's finger from a needle ever happens without a Kadosh Baruch Hu saying, he deserves this, she deserves this. So are you saying that the Jewish people deserve what's happening to them? Apparently, according to God, yes. Why is the bigger question. Why is the bigger question? Why do we deserve this? Why do we need anti-Semitism? Why is Hashem using this famous tool that he uses every so often called anti-Semitism? Again, didn't we have billions of dollars spent on stickers and banners and events and built up organizations that said never again? Didn't Bibi Netanyahu promise us never again? Didn't all of the other liberal-minded rabbis and Jewish leaders promise us never again? But it's happening again. It's happening again to such an extent that literally there are reports coming out that the majority of Americans at this point admit that they're against Israel. The most recent study that came out about 11, 12 years ago by PW Research said that nearly 50% of Americans admit to being anti-Semitic. The other 50% didn't admit, didn't say anything. But 50% admit. Now we have over 50% admit that they're against Israel. And you say, yeah, if they're against Israel, doesn't mean that they're against the Jews. The two are one and the same, even if you are against the political stance of Israel, because that's the Jewish country. In essence, that's where most of the Jews live in the world. If you are against the state of Israel, by default, you are against the Jewish people, because you're not against the Jewish state because of the Arabs that live there, or because the French people that live there, or because the different, cults that live there. You're against them because of the Jewish people that live there, even though there are Arabs in the government and even in the Supreme Court. Needless to say, no one looks at that. People look at Israel as the Jewish place, and they're against it because they're against the Jews. And of course, even Jews, liberal Jews in America and other parts of the world are also against the Jewish people. They're self-hating Jews. Now, while we're not going to be able to turn everybody's heart around to all of a sudden pretend like they love us again, tonight at least, we certainly can answer the question of why is God doing this? Why is God allowing the world to threaten us? America is no longer as supportive. They did not veto what was happening at the UN just days ago, like they usually do, because the UN is one of the biggest anti-Semitic organizations on planet Earth. But this is something that we were able to deal with to a certain extent because America would be supportive of Israel. Why is it that many people that were pro this war and supportive of Israel to go to this war are no longer supportive? Why is it that you have literally every other day somebody new coming out saying that they're against Israel, and all of a sudden they have all of these hidden feelings about how much they hate the Jewish people, whether it's the Jewish people in Hollywood, or the Jewish people in the financial industry, or it's the Jewish people in the local store, or it's the Jewish people that are their landlord or the tenant, or someone they never even met. Needless to say, Jewish hatred has become a standard. Why? This, Rabotai Karim, is all through the divine hand, meaning Hashem is allowing it to happen. Why? Because as the Torah tells us in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Esav soneh et Yaakov. Esav hates Yaakov. He hates him. That's in essence the way he was created, to hate Yaakov. But that hatred is not necessarily something that is as apparent as others, because sometimes Hashem, and most of the time, Hashem protects us from that hatred, where in essence he covers Esav's face to look elsewhere, to focus elsewhere, and allows the Jewish people to prosper without the anti-Semitism, without the hatred, at least not in a larger magnitude. But as we saw in history, and what we're seeing now, things have changed. Why is Hashem doing this? Why is Hashem, in essence, uncovering Esav's eyes, and Esav is looking straight at us, and he decides that, yes, this is my long-lost enemy again? Why? Why allow this to happen again? Wouldn't this lead to war that's much bigger? Wouldn't this lead to pogroms? Wouldn't this lead to murders? Wouldn't this lead to all types of horrible things? It could, and it will eventually. The question is, why is God allowing this? With that long introduction, we have to go and start answering the question. The Torah tells us in Parashat Tzav, in the book written by Rabbi Ephraim, the new book that BeEzrat HaShem will be released in these coming months, as it's being printed as we speak. In Parashat Tzav, Rabbi Ephraim tells us that this parasha, like the rest of Sefer Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, is full of laws, more laws than any of the other parts of the Torah. And this parasha starts off with the korbanot, the sacrifices. And one of them that is particularly of interest is the fact that there's korban todah. Korban todah. What's korban todah? The korban that is to say thank you to God. And this korban is different than the rest of the korbanot, even the ones that are similar to it. It has different rules. There's a lot more food, where part of the korban is burned, part of it is eaten. But there's also 40 chalot, 4 of which are given to the Kohen, 36 are distributed, and it has to be eaten in a shorter period of time, where usually this whole the other korbanot, you have a couple of days to do it. Here you only have a day. There's some interesting rules here. But the Midrash Bubel, Midrash Agadah Bubel, in Parashat Tzav, in Perek Zayin, the 7th Perek, 7th chapter, in Siman Yudbet 12, says, En chashuv lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu yoter min ha'odaya. There's nothing more important to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, nothing more important to Hashem than gratitude. Now, this is not because we help Hashem in any way by saying thank you to Him. But rather, this is a test of our character, of where we stand. And Hashem says that this korban todah is saying thank you. And therefore, the Chachamim teach us that this korban todah is God's favorite korban. Now, when would this korban typically be done? There's a verse. There's a verse in Tehillim where David HaMelech says, "V'kol ha'chaim yeducha sela." V'kol ha'chaim yeducha sela says, meaning that all of the living will thank you forever. This is one of the things that David HaMelech tells us, but it has the hint. This chaim, the word chaim, has the hint of when this gratitude is going to be given. The chet, as our Ephraim brings over here, is standing for chavush bebet ha'isurim, someone that was in jail and now he's out of jail. He has to bring a korban to say thank you to God. The yud, isurim, someone that is sick, bedridden, in a hospital, and now is healed, has to bring a korban todah. Yam, someone that has traveled through the ocean, which is very dangerous even till this day, but certainly was much more dangerous in the past. Someone that has survived a journey through the ocean has to bring korban todah. Mem, midbar, someone that has successfully traveled through the desert, through the midbar, also has to bring korban todah, and this is all halacha in Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim in Siman 219. Halacha number 4. So here, the Torah tells us that there are special times where somebody has to bring korban todah, but this also is because in each one of these circumstances, there's a more or less a open miracle. Someone that had their life at risk from a journey in the ocean, in the desert, they were on their deathbed practically, or very, very sick to the point where they could have died. So they have to bring korban todah. Now, interestingly enough, the one thing that we see is that this korban has different rules, where there's a lot more food to be eaten as part of the sacrifice in less time. And the Abarbanel lived about 500 years ago. Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel, he was not only one of the Gdolei Ador, but also the chief treasurer of the government for the King Fernando in Spain until the Spanish Inquisition, where the Queen Isabella, Yimach Shema V'Zichra, convinced Fernando to kick out all of the Jews. But since the Abarbanel was such a genius, not just in Torah but in finances, and helped Spain become literally the leading country in the world, they tried to convince the Abarbanel to stay, and they were even willing to allow 10 Jewish families to stay with him so he could pray with the minyan every day. But the Abarbanel, of course, did not agree, and left everything behind, and left Spain, and along with the Jews that survived this entire disaster. And he actually became the treasurer in Portugal. We see from here that obviously HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted him to be successful, and it didn't matter where he was. Either way, the Abarbanel, who wrote extraordinary commentary on the Torah, he says that one of the things that we've noticed, that there's this particular korban is more food in less time. And if you don't eat, whatever you don't eat in time, you have to burn. You can't keep it for the next day. He says the reason why is because the whole purpose of this korban is to publicize God's glory, publicize God's name, publicize God's omnipotence, God's mercy, publicize God's name. And if a person has all the time in the world to eat this korbanot, then a person could be, selfish and simply keep it for him and his immediate family, only the people that he really, really loves and really, really likes, and that's it. And so therefore the publicity of God's name and the miracle that just happened is limited. But since there's less time, and since there's more food, and anything you don't eat within that day has to be burned, and if you end up pretty much not finishing and there's a lot to burn, this will become a public embarrassment. People will say, wait a minute, why are you burning all this food? Why are you destroying it? Oh, you had a miracle? Why didn't you invite us? And everyone's going to find out. You're a stingy Stan. They're going to find out you're nasty. They're going to find out you are selfish. So the Abarbanel says the whole purpose behind this entire thing is to make sure that you invite as many people as possible and be forced to invite as many people as possible to publicize the miracle. Because gratitude is of utmost importance in the eyes of God. Now, as we go through the parasha, we see that the details of the rest of the korbanot are no less detailed. Every korban, every sacrifice has its own detail. The Kohanim have to do all types of procedures. They have to remember everything. They have to study everything. They have to do everything perfect. Now, obviously, the Kohanim, they're not secular people that are driving on Shabbat. They're not the Shmuli Boteach that is looking for attention in the media. They're not people that are saying things that are heretical, like God needs you. These are righteous people. These are people that are dedicating their life to serving God, to make sure each sacrifice is done perfect, to make sure that they put every bit of their attention into every matter, so much so that when it came to a mitzvah that's mentioned in the beginning of parasha, which is to collect the ashes, which is a special process called Trumat Addition, the Kohanim would literally argue over it. Who gets to do it? Who gets to do it? I want to do it. I want to do it. Everybody wanted to do it. Sure, the Mishnah says there was also a big reward, spiritual reward for doing it, but nonetheless, if these were disbelievers, if these people were into everything else except God, they wouldn't even be there in the first place. But they're all fighting on serve God. I want to do it. I want to do it. And they had to literally make turns. Because when they said, listen, first come, first serve, the Kohanim would run there until one point the Mishnah says that one of them got pushed and broke his leg. And the leader said, no, we can't do this. This is becoming a danger. So we have to make sure that everyone gets their turn to do every part. So we're seeing that these are righteous people. So now that we're seeing they're righteous people, we need an explanation for why is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu constantly threatens them. Again, righteous people dedicate their life to serving God. They're in the Bet HaMikdash, not because they're going to get rich out of it, not because they're going to be popular, not because they're going to have a big YouTube channel. No. They're there in the Bet HaMikdash, depending on the korbanot so they can eat, so they can support their family. Praying all day, serving all day. Why is God threatening them? In practically every other page in this parasha and throughout the Torah, anytime it talks about the korbanot, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, by the way, if you don't do this korban the right way, where you're not supposed to eat it and you eat it, death penalty. You're impure and you eat it, death penalty. You do things wrong, punishments. Punishment after punishment, and death penalty upon death penalty. So much so that after giving all of the details, if he didn't threaten enough, where every time it finished another section of one of the korbanot and the laws of the korban, and he says if you do this wrong, in essence, death penalty, spiritual excision, punishments, all types of things. Fine, we learned it throughout the parasha. Every couple of paragraphs, another threat to the righteous people. Threat. Fine, we got the point. Then, after all this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, make sure that the Kohanim do this. Make sure that the Kohanim do this the right way. In chapter 8, verse number 35, he says to him, and you shall protect Hashem's charge so that you will not die. So have I been commanded. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Am Yisrael, says to the Kohanim, by the way, everything I just told you, you know I told you to do this, this, and this, and just don't mess up so you'll die? Yeah. And this, and this, and don't mess up because you'll die. And this, and this, and so far, don't mess up, you're going to die. By the way, just to remind you, don't mess up because you're going to die. Hashem's going to kill you. Whoa! Why so many threats? We're here. We want to do it. We want to do it. Why you keep threatening us? Why can't you, say, good job, guys, way to go, cheer us up, put some music to get us all pumped up, like they do at one of these football games. Why all these threats? Talk nice, no? Rabotai Karim, this is not the only place. We have to find out the answer, because all of these are connected. The Gemara, Masechet Kiddushin, page 81a, brings us an event that took place, where it says Rav and Rav Yehuda were walking on the road. Rav was the Gedol Hador, biggest rabbi of the generation. He was Rabbi Abba, the student of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who wrote the Zohar. Rav was a giant. The Chachamim say that even though he was the beginning of the generation of the Amoraim, he was still considered a Tana. Rav was a giant among giants. His student was Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda. Now there was also another giant in the generation named Shmuel. And Shmuel, not to be mistaken with the Shmuel HaNavi, this is one of the sages named Shmuel. Shmuel was also a Gedol Hador, a Torah giant, not quite at the level of Rav, but certainly one of the other Torah giants of the generation. And both Rav and Shmuel had a mutual student named Rav Yehuda. Now here, Rav and Rav Yehuda, his student, are walking on the road. And all of a sudden, there is a woman in front of them. The Gemara says, Rav says to Rav Yehuda, hurry up ahead of this Gehenom. He calls the woman Gehenom. He tells, not to her, he tells Rav Yehuda, hurry up ahead of this Gehenom. And Rav Yehuda says to Rav, my master, but did the master himself say that regarding men that have high moral character, people that are religious, people that have Yirat Shamayim, it's permitted for them to be alone with a woman? Rav said to them, who says I said such a thing? In regards to men of high moral character such as you and I. Rather, like what sort of men did I say? Like Rabbi Chanina Bar Papi and his colleagues. People that are at a different level. So in essence, he's rebuking his Talmid, telling him, run, come on, hurry up, there's a woman in front of us. Why? Because the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 61a, says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, better to be behind a lion than behind a woman. Why? Because if you are behind a woman, you're going to start looking at different things and start thinking things that are inappropriate. And as the Gemara in Masechet Yomah says, the thoughts of sin are worse than a sin. Once a person thinks of immorality, it gets to a point where it can affect him even worse than an act of immorality. Because an act of immorality, He decides to be promiscuous for a day. He decides to waste seed. She decides to be promiscuous for a day. That act begins and ends in a relatively short period of time. And usually, it doesn't continue staying on your mind for the next 20 years, especially if you move on with your life, you develop a healthy relationship and so on. But thoughts of immorality, if a person watches pornography, if a person sees things that are immodest, that thought could literally stay with you an entire lifetime. And could reappear at the worst possible times, where instead of you praying to God and thinking about God and pleading with God, you're thinking about immorality during your prayer. Instead of thinking about your wife or your husband, even during the most intimate times, you're thinking about that other person you saw on a screen, that other person you saw in the street. Literally, those horrible thoughts appear at the worst possible times. And therefore the Chachamim say the thoughts of sin are worse than the sin. And if you're walking behind a woman, certainly you're putting yourself at risk to bring immoral thoughts to your mind. So therefore Rav says to his student, Rav Yehuda, run in front of this Gehenom. Why is he calling this woman Gehenom? She a nasty lady? No, she might as well be a very nice lady, very righteous, very wonderful. But she's not your wife. She's not your sister. She's not your mother. She's just a strange lady. You stand behind her, you're definitely going to go to Gehenom in the end. Why? Because you're going to have immoral thoughts that can bring you to sin. Okay. The Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah says that anyone that's named in the Gemara was so righteous, so holy, they were able to resurrect the dead. So, is Rav Yehuda named in the Gemara? Yes, he's named. So, obviously he's righteous. Obviously he's holy. And if that was perhaps something we weren't sure about, even Rav Yehuda himself asks his rabbi, his master, he says, Rabbi, why am I being threatened right now? Didn't you say that moral people like me shouldn't be worried? Rav says that no, we're not at that level. Now let me see what else the Gemara can tell us about Rav Yehuda. Let me see what the Gemara can say about Rav Yehuda. The Gemara, in a different places, Masechet Nida, page 13a, gives us a whole story about an experience that some of you are going to find unusual, especially if you are new to Torah learning, even more so if you're new to teachings of the Gemara. But nonetheless, there is endless amount of Torah and we need to learn it. And the Gemara teaches us every single thing, and one of the things that it tells us is if there's two Torah scholars together and they're not speaking words of Torah, it's best for them to get burned alive. Why? How can you be a Torah scholar and not speaking words of Torah? Together you're not speaking words of Torah, how can it be? So the Gemara tells us of another time where there's two Torah scholars together. Masechet Nida, page 13a, towards the middle of the daf, says that Rav Yehuda and Shmuel were together. They were studying Torah on the roof. In those days, you don't have the electricity of today and so on. You don't have the air conditioners of today. So many times, Chachamim would study on the roof of a building. First is the light of the moon. And second, it's obviously better, easier to study, better climate. So they are standing on the roof, saying Divrei Torah. Shmuel, the other rabbi that Rav Yehuda has, As we said, Rav Yehuda had two rabbis. He had Rav and he had Shmuel. So Rav Yehuda and Shmuel are standing on the roof, talking Divrei Torah, and this was in a place called Shaf Vayesiv, near Noahide, very famous place full of Torah, and Rashi says that this specific place is actually named because it was a special synagogue that was destroyed and rebuilt, and the Shekhinah was always there. It was a very holy place. So they're studying Torah over there on the roof. All of a sudden, Rav Yehuda says to Shmuel, his master, I need to urinate. Yes, that's what the Gemara says. I need to urinate. It's like somebody saying, can I go to the bathroom? But it's obviously no bathrooms over there. In those days, if you had to go to the bathroom, you go. It depends what it was, whether it's Ktanim or Gdolim. Number one, number two. But fine, you're adults. What's the thing? Oh, because he has to go to the bathroom. He has to tell his rabbi because he's scared now that he has to go to the bathroom. If you know that you have to go to the bathroom, but you can hold it for at least 72 minutes, then you're allowed to continue learning Torah and continue praying if you're in the middle of a prayer. But if you know that you won't be able to hold it for 72 minutes, that you'll have to literally go within the next few minutes, then you're no longer allowed to pray or learn Torah. You have to go. You have to clean your body. So Rav Yehuda, since he was learning Torah from Shmuel, says, I have to go. I have to go. I can't learn anymore. Shmuel's response is what we're going to learn here. Shmuel says, sharp one, meaning you're bright, you're clever. You're a Torah giant yourself. Sharp one. Grasp your organ and urinate outward. In other words, go to the corner of the roof over there. There's nobody out now. We're in the middle of the night. There's nobody under. There's nobody walking outside anymore. So you don't have to worry about you urinating on somebody. You also don't have to worry about anyone seeing you because it's dark. It's night. So why waste the time getting off the roof, going far away, and we're losing Torah time here? Go to the corner of the roof and go urinate. What's the problem? But he says it in a way where it says, grab your organ and urinate outward, meaning go to the corner over there and do it. So the Gemara asks a famous question, how could Shmuel do this? Meaning, not tell him to urinate. Urinate, of course. He has to do it, not to study Torah anymore. But why did he specifically say, grab your organ and urinate? Didn't the Chachamim teach us in the name of Rabbi Eliezer ben Holkinos that whoever grasps his organ to urinate brings the punishments of the flood upon the world? Why? Because if a person grabs his organ, certainly this can bring him to waste seed, to think inappropriate thoughts, to do inappropriate things. So how could you do that? How could Shmuel, his rabbi, tell him to do this? And therefore the Gemara now gives 7 different reasons of why Shmuel said what he said. First, Abaye explains. Says, we know that if there's an army coming into the Jewish community, when it's a time of peace, then all of the barrels that we have, the ones that were opened were no longer, the barrels of wine were no longer allowed to drink them, because certainly the soldiers use the wine, and once they use it, we're no longer allowed to drink it as Jews. It's considered yain nesech, because part of the worship that these non-Jews had was to use the wine as part of their servitude to their idols. So if they touch the wine, we're not allowed to touch it. Fine. All of the open barrels are forbidden, But the closed barrels we're allowed to use. Why? Because they're still closed. They're still closed, and therefore we're allowed to use them. On the other hand, if the army comes during a time of war, both the open barrels and the closed barrels, we're allowed to use them. Why we're allowed to use them? Since they're at war, we're not concerned about them using their limited time to serve their idol. They're not going to serve their idol at this time. Maybe they'll have a drink, but they're not going to use any of this limited time they have while they're at war to go start doing a whole procedure of serving idols. So therefore, we're not worried. Our open barrels and our closed barrels are allowed to us to drink. Why? Are they not going to serve their idol? Why are they not going to serve? Because they're afraid. Because they're afraid. The same thing goes with Shmuel. When he told this to Rabbi Yehuda, he says Shmuel was afraid. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda was afraid. The student was afraid. And therefore Shmuel is not concerned about telling him, go and grab your organ and urinate outwards. Because I see and I know that you are afraid. Number one, you are afraid of the fact that I'm here. I'm your teacher, I'm here. You're not going to waste seed, go against God right in front of your rabbi. You're afraid of your rabbi. You're even afraid to ask me to go to the bathroom in the first place. Number two, you're afraid because it's at night. And you're afraid to fall off the roof. Number three, you're afraid to go against the Shekhinah that's on this holy place that we're on. That's why it was named. Number four, you're afraid of God. You're afraid of God himself. What's the... In so many words, you're afraid. And more than anything else, you are always afraid because you are a tzaddik to such an extent that the Gemara says that Shmuel would say about his Talmid, Rabbi Yehuda, this one is not born of a woman, meaning he's like an angel. He's always afraid of God. He's always afraid of sinning. So I'm not worried about telling him to do something and he's going to sin. He is like an angel, this Rabbi Yehuda. So now we go and we see that Rabbi Yehuda is a tzaddik to such an extent that there are literally rules of how to treat this tzaddik. And if that's not enough, he says you're also married too, by the way. So I'm not worried about you going with some other woman or anything like that. But more than anything else, you are unlike regular people. You are like an angel. So we see here, Rabotai, that Rabbi Yehuda was a tzaddik, and Shmuel spoke to him accordingly, even though he was his student. So now we go back to his other rabbi, to Rav. Do you think Rav didn't know that Rabbi Yehuda was a tzaddik? Do you think he would waste time with a wicked student? Do you think that Rav didn't know that his Talmid wasn't someone that's to the extent where they call him an angel? Of course he knew. He's his main rabbi. So how come when he warned him about the woman that's walking in front of them, hurry up and pass her so we don't stay walking behind her, in such a way where he says, move fast or you're going to go to Gehinnom? Why? Why do that? Why scare him to such an extent? He's a tzaddik after all. He's not some rasha that's just sinning every other day. He's a righteous person. Why do you need to scare him so much? If he was wicked, we'd understand. You have to tell him about Gehinnom so he stops sinning. But this is a righteous person. Why do you have to talk to him that way? Shouldn't you talk to him nicely, politely, Rav, my dear student, we have a woman in front of us. Let's walk a little faster so we could pass her. Because the Chachamim said it's not allowed. Oh, okay, my master. Let's go. No! He doesn't talk to him that way. He says, Rabbi Yehuda, move fast in front of this Gehenom, lest we go to Gehenom because we don't go fast enough, because of the thoughts that it will bring in our mind. Ay, 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 ay. One rabbi says, this Talmid, this student, is not the son of a woman, he's an angel. He's an angel. I'm not worried about him sinning. Another rabbi telling this guy has to hurry up or else we're going to go to Gehenom. Why? On one hand, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, these Kohanim, these are my chosen among the chosen. I have my chosen people, but inside the chosen people, there's a chosen people. There's the Kohanim. They're the ones that are going to serve in the Bet HaMikdash. And as the Rambam says, anyone that's a Talmid Chacham, learns Torah, that's his vocation, that's what he does with his time, is considered as if he's part of the Levi tribe, the tribe of the Kohanim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants these special people to serve in his Bet HaMikdash. But yet he says, you know all those laws of the Korbanot, make sure you do them right lest you die. Who's going to kill you? I will. Wait, did you just say I was righteous? Did you just say that I'm good and I'm a special chosen among the chosen? Yes. And by the way, remember what I said before? Yeah. Oh, I'll remind you again. If you do it wrong, you're going to die. Ooh. Why you keep threatening me? What's with all the threats? Why are you threatening Rabbi Yehuda? Why are you threatening the Kohanim? Why are you threatening Am Yisrael with anti-Semitism? The friends became frenemies. Why? This is because Rabotai Yekarim, this is the way of Hashem, this is the way of the Torah Kedosha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us in the Torah, you see, I have all the blessings. Everything is mine. Liya kesef Liya zahav, Neum Hashem tzavaot. Mine is the money, mine is the gold, says God, the master of legions. Everything is mine, and I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you money. I'm giving you a wife. I'm giving you a husband. I'm giving you kids. I'm giving you food. I'm giving you sustenance. I'm giving you air to breathe. I'm giving you eyes to see. I'm giving you ears to hear. I'm giving you a mouth to speak. I'm giving you a body that can digest. I'm giving you a body that can do all types of things. I'm giving you a mind that will develop ideas that no one else can. I'm going to give you all of these things. Not because you just happen to be some human with 2 arms and 2 legs and eyes and therefore I make them work. No! I give them to you because of the Torah Kedosha. I give it to you. At Mount Sinai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought Am Yisrael to the highest spiritual level. They went from being idol worshippers, slaves that are being murdered and massacred daily in Egypt. Paro would murder 150 babies in the morning and 150 babies at night in order to bathe in their blood, because that's what his necromancers told him would heal his skin disease. You had people literally missing arms, missing legs, being beaten, being killed, slaved for hundreds of years. They went from there to the highest level of holiness by the time they got to Mount Sinai, the 49th level or 50th level of Kedusha, something unbelievable. 49th level of Kedusha is where we got to. When Mashiach comes, we'll get to 50. But before that, just a month and a half before, they were in the lowest. How? Hashem raised us. But then after he raises us, says, I need to raise you. Why? To accept the Holy Torah. Am Yisrael sees miracles. Am Yisrael sees the plagues on the Egyptians. Am Yisrael sees the ocean split into 12, 1 tunnel for each one of the tribes. Am Yisrael sees literally the words of God printed on the heavens. Am Yisrael sees the 7 heavens. Am Yisrael sees all type of imagery no other person, no other nation, no other creature has ever seen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu raises us to the highest possible level. We see miracles in a level that is beyond comprehension. But yet, at the moment of truth, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us the Torah, He lifts the mountain in the air over the nation of Israel. And He says to them, if you receive my Torah and accept it, good. If not, 3 words. Po yeh kvuratchem. Here will be your burial ground. Meaning, you don't accept my Torah, you won't finish the day. Everyone will die on the spot as I drop the mountain on everyone. Hashem Yishmor. Why are you threatening us? Didn't you elevate us? Didn't you groom us? Didn't you say we are the chosen people, we're wonderful, we're great, we're this, we're that? You healed us. The guy that didn't have an arm, now he has an arm. The guy that was paraplegic, now he can walk and run. The woman that was blind now can see. The man that was deaf now can hear. All of these things you did, you raised us, you elevated us, you gave us miracles upon miracles. All for the sake of receiving the Torah. You said we're the chosen people. But only if we accept the Torah. So why are you threatening us? Why don't you say, listen, my dear children, you know how I elevated you? You know how I did all those wonderful things for you? Now I have something else that's good for you. It'll give you a lot of good. You know what it is? It's the Torah. Learn it, follow it, it'll be good for you. I promise. God doesn't lie. Even Bilam HaRasha knew. And he says in Parashat Balak, is God a man that he changed his words, that he lies? No. God is not a man. He doesn't change his mind. So God could have easily said, listen, you know I did all those wonderful things for you. So you see I'm good. You see I love you. So now I have something else to show you I love you. I have the Torah. You read it. You follow it. Both the written and the oral Torah. It'll be good for you. How about it? But he didn't do that. You know what he did? He said, my dear children, my chosen people, the ones that I did all these miracles for, here is the Torah. If you accept it, good. If not, here will be your burial ground. The threat of all threats. Why not nice? Why not polite? Why so aggressive, God? Why are you threatening us? Why are you threatening the Kohanim? And why are your messengers, Rav, threatening the Talmid, Rav Yehuda, that's an angel? Why? Why the threats? This, Rabotai Karim, is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the master of the world, knows human nature as he created it. And he knows that there are times that you can speak nice to people when the threat is limited. Like in a situation where Shmuel and Rav Yehuda were on the roof. There's no woman there. So how is he going to sin? The only way for him to sin is if he does it by himself, but he's not. He's an angel. He's a tzaddik. And on top of it, I'm here. And on top of it, he's scared of this holy place. And on top of it, he's scared of God. And literally 7 different reasons of why there's nothing to worry about. But in the situation of Rav, he says, no, this is a different situation altogether. Here there's a woman. Here, he doesn't have to touch her in order for bad things to happen, for immorality to be created. All he has to do is look at her for a little too long in order for a thought to be created in his mind, a thought that can lead to many immoral actions that certainly will bring him to Gehinnom. And me as his teacher, I'll go along with him to Gehinnom for not protecting him, for not telling him not to do it. And therefore, at a time like this where there's a risk of complete destruction, the only thing that works is the threats. If you saw that your child was about to stick their finger in the plug, in the electric plug, the electric socket, are you going to say, my dear son, step away from there. Please don't put it in there. If you do that, you're very likely to be mourning and not saying good morning. No pun intended. Why? It's a moment of risk. It's a moment that can change every moment. And if you don't act swiftly, if you don't act aggressively, it'll be too late. And therefore, any normal parent that sees that their kid runs into the street, sees that their kid's hand is about to go into the electric socket, sees that the kid is about to go into a danger, immediately acts in an aggressive manner. Why? To protect the child from destruction. That's what Rav was doing with Rav Yehuda. The angel among men still needs protection from the rabbi. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was doing at Mount Sinai with his people. Because if you don't accept the Torah, it's for sure destruction. And needless to say, all of those righteous Kohanim need to be protected. To know that as righteous as they are, if they start becoming overly comfortable with the blessings, with the sacrifices, surely it would lead to destruction. And therefore the threats have to come. Now what does this all have to do with the Korban Todah? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Korban Todah, the Korban, the sacrifice of gratitude is my favorite. Why? Because 10 times the Jewish people tested me in the desert and complained, and I nearly destroyed them for it each time. Because when a person complains, that means they're not being grateful. They're complaining that they don't have this pair of shoes that they want. They're complaining they don't have this bag that they want. They don't have this money that they want. They don't have this house that they want. They don't have this thing that they want. And that while they're complaining, they're forgetting about all of the wonderful gifts that I gave them. I gave them 2 eyes and they can see. I gave them 2 ears and they can hear. I gave them a mouth and they can speak. I gave them hands and legs where they can function. But they forgot. They took it for granted. They're only looking at all the things they don't have. They simply canceled out all of the wonderful things I gave them. I gave them money. I gave them food. I gave them children. I gave them a spouse. I gave them life. But they put all of that into the garbage because of 1 pair of shoes they don't have, because of 1 car that they don't have, because of 1 thing that they don't have. And that lack of gratitude literally nullifies my relationship with them. When people complain against God, it becomes detestable in the eyes of God because it literally takes everything that He has given us and puts it in the garbage. When we don't show gratitude to God, that means that we don't really have a real relationship with God. We have a relationship with our desires, like animals. And therefore, Rabotai Karim, in a situation of the world that we have today, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that there's a clear and apparent danger. Our spiritual status has deteriorated to such a point that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to use anti-Semitism and constant threats in order for us to do tshuva, to start being grateful for the Torah that He gave us, start being grateful for all the good He gave us. How can we show gratitude? Saying thank you to Hashem is nice, but if you say thank you to Hashem while you betray Him, that thank you is worthless. If you say to your wife, I love you, and you still cheat on her, that I love you is worthless. If you say thank you to your boss while you're stealing from him, that thank you is worthless. The way that we show God that we're grateful is by following His Torah. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I gave you the Shabbat to observe it in accordance to the Torah, and we violate the Shabbat, that means we're not grateful for the Torah. That means we're not grateful for anything. When people think that God is supposed to be grateful to them, that they did anything good, when people think that God needs them, then what ends up happening is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is an ungrateful people that is about to self-destruct. And therefore, in order to save those that still want to be saved, in order to keep and protect those that want my protection, I have to threaten them. The best among them will be threatened. The worst among them will be threatened. Everyone will get a chance to see those that are connected to God, those that want to be connected to God, will have to know that when God is showing us threats, that's because we are disconnected from Him. And therefore, we have to do tshuva before HaKadosh Baruch Hu picks up the ante, raises the ante to the point where those threats become action and blood is spilled in the streets. Rabotai Karim, everyone is being given a chance. Some people are saying, oh, how do we solve this problem? The same solution we've been doing for the last 10 years. Help more Jews do tshuva. Follow the Torah. More Jews connect to God, the real God, the only God, the God of the Torah, the God that says that we need Him. He doesn't need us. The God that says that we have to be moral people. We have to be honest people. We have to observe Shabbat and eat only kosher food. We have to follow all of the laws of the Torah that are relevant to us if we're Kohanim, relevant to us if we're not Kohanim, relevant to us if we're males, relevant to us if we're females. Relevant to us, there are 613 laws from the Torah. The vast majority of them have nothing to do with anyone in our current generation because we don't have the Beit HaMikdash. We're not all women, we're not all men. In so many words, the average person probably has somewhere around 150 different laws that they have to keep, but it's not all in one day, and it's certainly not even all throughout 1 year. Some of them are once in a lifetime, some of them are once every few years. Either way, when a person looks at the Torah and sees, these are the laws God gave me for my good, not for His good, not for His benefit, they're for my benefit. They're for me to have a good life, for me to have a connection to God, for me to have an eternity, and for me to show that I'm grateful for everything He's doing for me. When a person does not show gratitude, God hates him. Why? Because it's literally the minimum of minimum that one can do for all that God gives him. But since God is merciful, since God knows that His children are sometimes clueless and more attracted to their instinct than they are attracted to their Creator, He keeps giving us more chances. But when we're running out of chances, when we're running out of time, He must use threats. Those threats are the clear indication that it's almost too late, that it's almost to a point where the damage will become permanent, where some people will no longer have a chance, where some people will no longer have an opportunity to fix, to change. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu uses the different tools He has in His endless arsenal. Most famous and deadly is anti-Semitism. It's not created by the news or the governments. Rather, they're used by the Creator in order to bring His people back before they put their hands into the electric socket, and it's now too late. If any one of us understands this, they will also understand that there's no more time to waste time, to not observe Shabbat, to not observe modesty laws, to not observe everything. There's no more time to be immoral, to be a thief, to be a liar, to make your whole life determined by which instinct is the one that you are looking to fulfill at this moment. Certainly, a person has to live, but who says you have to live like an animal that's just looking for food, looking for something material constantly? It's time each and every one of us take HaKadosh Baruch Hu's warnings seriously. Stop being ungrateful and start showing your gratitude. With that being said, Bezrat Hashem, you guys will have some questions and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. See. Yeah, for all the TikTok listeners or viewers, starting the next year that we'll do, most likely will be on a different profile name than I have now. So just look for. I have several different profiles on there. Look at the other ones and subscribe to them. Okay, YouTube, you guys have some questions. Let's see, what do you got? Oh, so Miguel over here. There we go. Okay. Good evening, dear Rabbi. I want to make a donation by Zelle. Do you have that option? No. As far as the Zelle to the organization doesn't work. I have a Zelle for my personal, anyone that wants to donate to me personally, which means you won't be able to get a donation receipt. If that matters to you and you need it for tax purposes, then there's no Zelle available. If you want, you could donate on the website, bhtorah.org or BeEzrat or on PayPal. We also have a Venmo for the organization. But if you want only Zelle, that's only to me personally. And for that, you could just use Zelle, my email, or the phone number that's publicized everywhere for me. Should women be viled? Absolutely not. The woman is highly appreciated and celebrated in Judaism to such an extent that the Torah tells us that it's through the merit of the righteous women that Hashem took us out of Egypt, and it's through the merit of the righteous women that Hashem will send the Mashiach. So women are highly celebrated and praised in Judaism so long as they're modest women. Women that are immodest, women that are immoral, are just people that are sinners and certainly not fit the righteous woman category. Same as a man that's not moral and not honest, also is not fit to the righteous. So it all depends on whether somebody followed the laws of the Torah or not. If they follow the laws of the Torah, both men and women are celebrated and honored. But if they go against the Torah, then God hates them. How do you take those old thoughts out of your head that hurt intimacy? I have a whole series about Jewish Intimacy is 40 or so lectures based on the teachings of the Ramban. In there, multiple times I discuss this particular question about cleaning your mind. The short answer is, as the Rambam wrote 800 years ago, a mind that has immorality in it is a mind that's empty of Torah, which means that the more Torah that a person learns, the more holiness that a person learns from the Torah, the more they're going to be able to take those immoral thoughts and bring them to the back part of their mind, to the point where they could literally be eliminated over time. But this takes time and effort. Okay. Greetings in the market. Man, I mind what you're saying. Sorry. Tell me the book he's reading from. I'm not really reading from one book. There's several books that are in front of me, such as the Talmud and the Tractate of Kiddushin, the Tractate of Nida. I also have a Yilkut Yosef, Ilchot Sofrim, Yilkut Yosef, Ilchot Brachot. I have the Chumash, which is the 5 books of Moses. I have the commentary by Onkelos. I have the Siddur. I have Chovot HaLevavot. These are different books. I have Rabbi Ephraim's Sichot book. I have, Baruch Hashem, several Rabbi Ephraim's books. I have several books in front of me, and there's also many things that I quote from my head of different books that I read, study, and so on. So I'm not reading a script or line by line every particular book. There are certain things which I make it obvious that I'm reading from a certain segment of a book, but it's the lecture is not like a presidential speech where I wrote it before and I'm reading it. I'm giving you a compilation of different teachings in a silver platter. In your film, when did you know it was time to start your own business? Did you ever think you were going to fail? This is the question that you care about right now, out of all the things we talked about? Okay, you asked it, I'll answer it. As far as business, if you saw some of my other lectures where I talk about my personal story, my life, and so on, I was already an entrepreneur when I was 10 years old. I worked, I had different paper routes, newspaper routes, I worked at a flea market, I worked at shoe stores, and so on. And then as far as when I first started in the investment business, I worked for other people for the first few years. But after I became very successful in those companies and I made $1 million or so in a single year, that's when I decided that it's time for me to go on my own, because I realized that it's in order for me to grow further, I have to make a decision either of staying at that that type of environment for the rest of my career or starting something of my own. It can't be both. So I decided to start something on my own. It wasn't necessarily the best decision. It wasn't the worst decision. There were certain pros and cons of being an entrepreneur and starting your business. Some people, they want to be the boss, they want to be CEO. until the bills come. So it's not necessarily the right choice for everybody to be an entrepreneur, to be a boss. One thing I would recommend for anyone that is on the career path is more than being an entrepreneur, be a very, very good employee. If you're a very good employee, if you're an honest employee, if you're a hardworking employee, you'll also be able to teach others to do the same, and certainly you'll be able to survive even if your employees don't do that. But if you're not a good employee, most likely you're not going to be good at building a company either. Before going on your own and living the so-called dream of business, be a good employee. Show that you're dedicated, honest, you have a staying power, and many times you could benefit as much and sometimes even more with working for a company rather than building your own company, because building your own company is not the same. I can tell you, for me personally, building a company had certain benefits, but there's a very good chance that I would have made a lot more money had I continued staying working for a company. Rabbi, how can a person fix their thoughts from old thoughts that revisit the mind? Okay, I answered this question already. Both Adam and Eve learned the knowledge to know that they are bad and forgot that this Ariel, I'm not sure, made good once. Okay, so it's not really a question, it's just a comment. Okay, fine. When you have bad thoughts, just don't fight it. The more you fight, the worse it gets. Rather just ignore them, and over time they'll go away. That's not necessarily true. As far as to eliminate inappropriate thoughts, there's a proven system that you can do, which is to replace the thought with something else. The mind cannot think of two things at once. So if you are thinking of something immoral, the best thing to do is think en od milvado. There's nothing else but God. There's nothing else but God. There's nothing else but God. And you'll see that the immoral thought will go away. If you are thinking of, if you're depressed, you're thinking negative thoughts, then you could either say en od milvado, or you could say, think of something good that happened to you. One of the things that I recommend for people to deal with ups and downs in life is to get, some type of notebook, something permanent that you can't, delete, where you write different miracles that happen to you, different good things that happen to you in a short format. Not necessarily, you could obviously write a journal and things like that, but usually people lose steam in regards to writing something long. So it's best to just write, a bullet for each short sentence or even one word describing major things that happened to you in your life. So you got the job of your dreams, you got a raise, you found the love of your life, you had a kid, you had a medical miracle, whatever it is, you found $1,000 when you really needed it. Whatever it is that you happened in your life, write them in a book. And anytime you have any type of, mental struggles, emotional struggles in your life, and you're questioning things, questioning God, questioning if He's with you, and so on, you look at that book, and it's going to replace those negative thoughts with positive thoughts, because you're going to start realizing that God has always been with you, especially when you needed Him, even though you feel like He's not with you right this second. He is. It's just that His timing and your timing are different. When you want the salvation is not necessarily when He's going to give you the salvation. He's going to give you the salvation when you need it, not necessarily when you want it. But most importantly, it's important for you to remember that and get yourself out of the mental battle that's usually worse than the physical battle. In fact, it's in order to remove the negative thoughts, whether it's depression, anger, jealousy, immorality, any type of thought that you don't want in your head, you have to replace it with a different thought. And the closer that thought is to God, to the will of God, the easier it is going to be for you to succeed in removing those thoughts. People that have a lot of negative thoughts, depression, sadness, misery, and so on, it's because they're not thinking about God. They're only thinking about their own misery, and they're forgetting all of the great things that God gave them. And in so many words, they are harping on their the missing thing that they have in their life, instead of thinking about all of the positive things they got. So it's like somebody, used the famous example, which is, a teacher goes to the students, and there's a big white board, and he draws a small dot in the middle, and he says to the people, he says, "What do you see?" Every single student said, "A black dot, a black dot." And then at the end, the teacher told them, "I don't understand. There's a huge white board, and the only thing you see is just one black dot." And that's in essence our misery. When people are miserable, the only thing they're looking at, out of all the things that God gave them, out of all the wonderful things that He's continuously giving them, even then, is the one black dot, the one bad thing that happened to them. And that's in essence a lack of gratitude that sometimes brings on even worse punishment, even worse times. So the best thing to do for a person when they have negative thoughts, immoral thoughts, any type of thoughts that they don't want to have, is to have thoughts that connect them to God. Thoughts of all the wonderful things that He gave you, thoughts of how great He is, how wonderful He is, how loving He is, how He was with you and through thick and thin, and use different types of tools to help you get there, which, like I said, one of the examples is by writing a list of different things that happened to you and opening that list and just looking at it. Even though you read it 500 times, the 501 is not going to be like the first 500 times. And it's going to help you reconnect with Hashem at the moment that you need it. It's going to help you pray. It's going to help you move forward. And like I said, anytime somebody's harping on their misery, that's because they're ungrateful. That's because they are selfish. That's because they are disconnected from God. And they need to connect to God and the right way, and not in a way where you are in essence complaining about Him. Okay. As a non-Jew, hearing this mindset and way of life is irresistibly captivating and beautiful. Can a non-Jew adopt and follow the Torah as well? Absolutely. A non-Jew could follow the Torah with the laws that apply to them. If they want to be a righteous Gentile, then simply they follow what's called the Noahide laws. I have at least 20 different lectures that discuss what is the Noahide law and what they need to do with their life. They can continue learning these lectures that I have because most of my lectures are relevant to all of mankind, not just the Jewish people. And also, a Gentile that wants to do even more and live as a Jew, they can convert to Orthodox Judaism. They convert and become a Jew. In fact, there's 36 places in the Torah where God says that He loves and protects the converts, so much so that He obligates the natural-born Jews to love the converts even more than they love natural-born Jews. So it's a conversion to Judaism is a very, very beloved thing to God. We don't necessarily go missionize and go from community to community of Gentiles and tell people to convert, but anyone that wants to convert is welcome to do so. It's not an easy or a quick process like it is with the false religions out there, but it's certainly a important and worthwhile journey for those that succeed in it. And some people, it takes them a short period of time of a year or two. Some people go through it 10, 15 years until they succeed in converting. But nonetheless, someone that understands the value of the journey and already benefits from it from day one. I have many, many lectures that talk about conversion, talk about righteous Noahides. We've helped many people convert. We've helped many people become righteous Noahides. And certainly these lectures are for everybody. everybody can certainly benefit from them. Shalom Rabbi, should one go seek treatment for ADHD? Yes, they could seek treatment by going to a bet midrash or a synagogue, or find themselves a Torah scholar or someone that's even willing to learn Torah with them, and they could spend as much time as possible learning Torah, and little by little that ADHD will be resolved. As far as if you're asking about should you get medicine for it, I've never seen anybody cured by any type of chemical for ADHD. ADHD is a spiritual issue. It's not it's not something that you could fix with chemicals. Yeah, but what do you do if you battle with PTSD and trauma from horrible things that you went through in your life? The PTSD leads to anger because the pain and the sadness. Well, I mean, if you watched my film, like my personal story, you'll know that I also went through some very, very serious pain in my life. The things that I talked about in the lectures, and the things that only my wife and HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself know about, and continue to deal with. Pain is difficult, suffering is difficult, agony is difficult, but the more Torah that you learn and apply to your life, the more you're able to have the strength to overcome the pain and still be happier than everybody else that's around you, because you're connected to not only the ultimate source of everything good that you got, but also the ultimate source of all of the difficulties that you got, and you start seeing the purpose behind them, the purpose of that trauma that you experienced, the purpose of that difficulty that you experienced, the purpose of all of the different trials and tribulations that you have in your life, had in your life, or will have in your life. It's very, very important for a person to know that no one has an easy life. No one. There's no such thing as an easy life. Whether you're a millionaire, billionaire, poor person, Jew, Gentile, nobody has an easy life. Everybody has difficulties. The thought that there's such a thing as an easy life is literally an illusion. It's an illusion, and many times people think that, but this rich person, he has a easy life because he has a lot of money. He may have a lot of money and solve the problem where he doesn't have to depend on another person to feed him, but that does not solve his problems with emotions, doesn't solve his problem with honesty, doesn't solve his problems with loyalty, doesn't solve his problems with the different issues that happen in life, whether his wife is cheating on him, or his kids are drug addicts, or his boss is stealing from him, or his customers are, or his partner, or his drug addiction, or the 1.5 million different issues, and most importantly, whether he's going to live or die tomorrow. Many times people look at rich people and celebrities and think that they have an easy life, but if you live long enough to see those people, their lives play out, you'll see that all of them have a bitter end, without an exception. Every single one of them have a bitter end, bitter lives overall. You see, oh yeah, he was celebrated, he made a lot of money, he looked like he was on top of the world, and then next thing you know, he's on the cover of the newspaper as a pedophile. He's on the cover of the newspaper because on the run from the cops because they're accusing him of rape or trafficking women or drugs, or he has cancer, or he has all types of horrible things. Or you see how their kids or their wives are, the multiple divorces and marriages and betrayals and the bad things that people say about them. Look at all of them. Let's say I have a film called The World of Lies, and it talks about all of this stuff, and I have many lectures where I discuss this. It's an illusion to think that just because somebody has anything material, they have an easy life. An easy life comes from a connection with God, meaning life in itself will never be easy. It's not meant to be easy. In fact, it's not even meant to be not difficult. It's supposed to be difficult. Why? As Job says, the prophet Job says, Adam la'amal yulad, a person came to this world to toil. To toil, meaning to toil in serving God, to toil in order to fix and correct himself or herself, to toil in order to fulfill their purpose. And all of the difficulties that you have in your life, whether it's traumas, health issues, financial issues, relationship issues, anything that happened to you in your life, God is the one that decided to give that to you. Why? In order for you to do something about it, in order for you to fix something, in order for you to elevate yourself, in order for you to be tested, different reasons for different things, which means that the more you connect to God through His Torah, the more you'll know that every single difficulty is to your benefit. And therefore the trauma becomes a sort of a positive experience, if you will, to a certain extent, because you know that the price you paid is also, there's a certain reward that you'll get for it. There's a certain reward that you get for it. What the reward could be? Simply less suffering in the afterlife. Simply a lesson learned that's needed for a better life today. Or many, many other endless reasons that Hashem has. And the more a person connects through the Torah to his Creator, the more they'll know and be able to connect, believe, and live the reason for everything, without even not necessarily knowing the reason for every single thing, but you know that there is a reason, a positive reason, a good, a beneficial reason, the easier life becomes. Not because life in itself is easy, but rather because you know that there is an account for every single thing, and as a benefit for every single thing, there's a reason. For every single thing, there's a master of the house. And he doesn't do anything for no reason. And he's not here to torment his children. He's obviously here to help us if we follow his Torah. If not, then we're in essence poisoning ourselves. And in fact, what you'll see, the more you learn Torah, is that the overwhelming majority of the suffering that people have in their life is through their own misdecisions to go against God. Because they went against God, they got bad things. Because he decided to drive on Shabbat, he also got into an accident on Shabbat. Because he decided to steal, he ended up going to jail. Because he decided to be promiscuous, he ended up being promiscuous at the wrong time after he was married already. Because she decided to be promiscuous, she got a STD. Because he decided to do all types of things that are against God, bad things happened. Which means that the more a person follows the will of God, the less issues they're bringing upon themselves. So this doesn't mean that if you are perfectly religious, you're not going to have problems. You could still have problems, but you know that those problems have a purpose that is to your benefit. It is to your benefit. And this is something that certainly makes a person happy through thick and thin. Whether there's difficulties in life or there is major issues, you still are able to be positive, to be hopeful, and not to get to a point where you are depressed and miserable and want to kill yourself or something like that, like unfortunately many people get to when they lose hope because they don't think that there's a master of the house. There is a master of the house, there is a master of creation, there is a master of everything, and that's Hashem, and Hashem is giving you all of these issues for your own benefit. You just have to connect to Him through His Torah in order for you to start seeing some of those reasons. And BeEzrat Hashem, you'll succeed. Someone asked, why did Jacob not look for Joseph if he loved him? Where exactly do you want him to look for him? I mean, you're making it like he was lost in a room. The world is huge. If you lose a key, you lose a key in your house. Many times that key is gone forever. And maybe you'll find it if one day you move out of the house, and after you moved, all of the furniture and everything is empty, you finally find that key. Even though that key was in a relatively small place, it was in a house. Needless to say, if you lose a human being, it's a huge world. If you go to the forest, you could literally be right next to somebody 1 minute, and the next minute you are not next to them, and you will not be able to find them. And if it's not for cell phones, if it's not for communication through digital devices, you literally will never run into that person again because you're both going into completely different directions. Needless to say, even more, if you lose somebody in a city, and of course, if you lose somebody in an ocean, or you lose somebody in a desert, the desert is literally, it feels like it's endless. That's why there's a special sacrifice that was brought to anyone that traveled through the desert and survived, that traveled through the ocean and survived, because it's endless, it's huge. It's not something that the human mind can comprehend. What we usually comprehend is, digital devices. So the world looks small because you see it on a screen, on some digital representation of it. The city looks small because you can see it on a screen. But in reality, the world is huge, beyond human comprehension. Beyond human comprehension. And losing somebody is not something that is easy to fix. Rabbi, should a single woman cover her hair? The Rambam actually paskin that a single woman should cover her hair already at the age of 6. But that's not how the halacha is. For a single woman that's never been married, she does not need to cover her hair, but her hair should be modest, meaning it should be in some type of ponytail. She certainly needs to cover her hair when she is praying or learning Torah. But as far as on our day-to-day, if she's cooking, cleaning, working some type of job or something like that, she doesn't need to cover her hair. But when she's praying, when she's learning Torah, certainly she has to cover her hair. Now, if she's married, she must cover her hair. And also, if she's divorced, she has to continue covering her hair. She doesn't take off the kisur rosh after she gets divorced, because we don't lower our holiness once we attain it. But if she's never been married, the only time she needs to cover her hair is when she's praying and when she's learning Torah. Other than that, she doesn't need to cover her hair. Should she? I don't think so, because just like the Chachamim were concerned that a woman that covers her hair looks like she's married, which it's could be a problem for a woman that's single, because people will think she's married and therefore will not think that she's appropriate to ask if she's interested in getting married. So there's no need to be more righteous than the sages. Rabbi, did you know that on February 22nd, 2024, 2 rabbis from Baltimore, one modern Orthodox, another Reform, had some bad business in the news? No, I'm sorry, I don't follow the news. Sometimes people send me things. That's usually how I know the news. I don't follow the news. No one can do magic and miracles and wonders today. It's not really true. Why do you speak in riddles? I don't speak in riddles. You just have to sharpen your brain a little bit. You'll understand it like the rest of the people. Find the edge of all events. What you're saying. It actually does seem like some of you guys write statements or questions in a riddle that I don't understand, so perhaps I need to sharpen my brain, because the questions are not understandable. Who goes to heaven from these three? A good Christian, a good Muslim, or a good Jew? The Torah determines who God is going to send to heaven, and that is people that follow the Torah. So, according to the Torah, a good Jew, meaning a Jew that follows the Torah, goes to heaven. A Christian that believes in the Trinity, that believes in the New Testament, that believes that a man became God, or that God became a man, is considered an idol worshiper. So therefore, they do not go to heaven. A Muslim that follows the Quran to the point where they even follow the parts where it says to be anti-Semitic and to kill Jews. certainly is not going to go to heaven. So who among the Gentiles will go to heaven? The righteous Gentiles. As the prophet says, at the end of days, 2/3 of the world will be annihilated in the war of Gog and Magog, but 1/3 will remain. And out of that 1/3, they'll be tested, and many of them will survive. So obviously 1/3 of the world is not the Jews. The Jews are a very, very small part of the world. And of all the Jews that we know of in the world today, there's maybe 15 to 20 million out of 8 billion people. So 1/3 of 8 billion people is approximately 2.7 billion people. So that's a lot of people. So that's obviously going to be Gentiles, but they're going to be righteous Gentiles that do not follow the teachings of the New Testament or of the Quran to the point where they are anti-Semitic and idol worshippers or doing things that are against the Torah, but rather are following the laws of the Torah which pertain to non-Jews. So this is the people that go to heaven. Will getting a wife help a man if he is motivating motivation lacking? Okay, in so many words, if you're asking me, if a guy is lazy, will him getting married help him? Well, it depends. It depends on a couple of things. Number one, it depends on whether he wants to change or not. If he doesn't want to change, then getting married is not going to help him. In fact, it may even make it worse. And number two, it depends on the wife. If she's also lazy, just like him, then he won't get better. He'll get worse. If she is impatient, then it won't get better. It'll simply stay the same until she divorces him. So getting married is certainly not a solution to a person's, laziness or flaws. A woman is supposed to be the other half of a person in order to help him become a better version of himself. If he is trying to bring a better version of himself. But if he is not doing it, nobody is here to feed you. No one's here to pick you up. You have to pick yourself up. You have to fight for yourself. You have to motivate yourself. And if you don't, you'll end up becoming a loser. And unfortunately, this is what a lot of people in this generation are. They're losers. They just decide that they're going to lose every single day because they're waiting for somebody to save them. God didn't bring you to the world for somebody to save you. You have to save yourself. I've never seen a Jewish church here in Texas. Are there any? No, there's no such thing as a Jewish church. Church is a place of worship for Christians and Catholics. Jews serve God in a synagogue. Dear Rabbi, I wanted to ask for your permission to frame a photograph of you. May I didn't want to attempt without saying okay. Sure, you want to frame a picture? Thank you very much for the compliment. You want to make a picture, put it on your wall, by all means, enjoy it. If it makes you happy, Baruch Hashem. More importantly, that you listen to the shiurim and learn from them and apply it to your life than my picture, but as long as you're listening to the Torah, you're doing what Hashem says, fantastic. Be an honor to be an inspiration for you. Rabbi, any tips for praying and getting a good job that you always wanted? As far as praying, certainly praying is very, very important. Pray every single day. Read Psalms. Second thing is learn as much Torah as you can when you're not working. Meaning that don't just waste your time and play video games or watch TV if you're not working. Be useful, be resourceful, do other things. Of course, a person can't go from never learning Torah to learning Torah 24 hours a day, but at least use some of your time to learn Torah and develop your character. Number 3, don't wait for some job to appear to you. Of course, you have to pray for it. Of course, you have to make the effort to look for a job. But there are also many different types of works that you can do on your own, from your house, from your computer, from your phone. So try to be as active as you possibly can. Now, if you're saying, no, it's not that I have a job already, but I want a better job. That is a different situation. Why? Because that means that you're not really recognizing the good that you already have. If a person wants more than what they have to ask themselves, why do they want more? Do they want more because of what? Oh, I want to have more money so I can give more. Everybody says that, but the truth behind it is that usually it's not. People don't want more because they want to give more. They want more because they want to have more. They want to have a bigger house. They want to have more than one car. They want jewelry. They want all this stuff, and you have to ask yourself: is this really good for you, as far as your servitude of Hashem? Because if it was really good for you, then God would have already given it to you. Which means that a person sometimes asks for things not because of the fact that it's good for them, but rather because they desire it. So I wouldn't necessarily give you some type of strategy to fulfill your own flawed instinct, but rather I can tell you that things that bring success, meaning further success than what Hashem already gave you, whatever success level you're in now, however much money you're making now, if you want God to give you more, regardless of what avenue He's going to give you, whether it's a specific job that's better than the job you have right now, makes more money right now, or it's just money from different ways. If the money simply just appeared in your bank account, would you really care if it came from the job or not? No. So if you want more success, then there are ways that bring more success. Number 1, do not do the things that remove the blessing from your life. So if, assuming you're Jewish, if you violate Shabbat, that removes the blessing from your life. Meaning that even if you had a lot of money, the money wouldn't have blessing. As far as morality, don't waste seed, don't be promiscuous. Promiscuous people and people that, whether they're promiscuous with themselves or with other people, they lose their blessing. So don't do that. Don't steal, don't be dishonest. If you're married, make sure that you do everything you can to have shlom bayit, to have peace in the home. Constant fights in the house ruin the blessings of the house. Those are some of the things that, when a person is making those violations, they ruin the blessing that God has already given them. Now, as far as if you want to get further blessing, aside from that, once you fix those, that's already going to open up many gates of heaven that are going to help you. Now, if a person wants to be assured that will be rich in their life, the sages have told us that when a person gives maaser, they give 10% of their income on a regular basis for the sake of Torah, to publicize the Torah, to help people do tshuva, such as donating to an organization like ours, or to a kollel where the people are learning serious Torah. That's going to help them protect their money. But if they want to become rich, they have to donate 20%. Now, of course, this is not an easy test because, many times people are living above their means, and giving 20% of their money seems impossible. But I can tell you that it's certainly something that if you overcome the test, it works. Now, it doesn't work in your timing where if you give 20% for 6 months or 12 months straight, or even 2 years straight, you're guaranteed to become rich after 2 years. Hashem doesn't work on your timing. Sometimes a person reaches success very quickly. Sometimes it takes a few years of tests before Hashem gives a person success. But I can tell you myself, I can tell you, stories that I've seen and stories that I've lived. Stories that I've seen and stories that I've lived where this works. How do I know? I've seen people that when I first met them, they were barely, making ends meet. They were barely finishing the month. They were in a ton of debt. There were a ton of problems. But they still made the sacrifice, made the step. They donated for Torah, and Baruch Hashem today, they're doing much better. They're making a few $100,000 a year. They're in some cases much more even. And Baruch Hashem, they're doing well. I've seen people even go higher than that. Unfortunately, many times when people succeed, they forget that where the blessing came from, and they abandon ship. And many times this actually brings failure. I saw in a couple of times, and I think I've told you guys, where people literally went from making a decent living to becoming multimillionaires in a very, very short period of time. To the point where they were able to, donate, like $1 million or $2 million to a few organizations in a short period of time. And they made some wrong decisions with their donations, some wrong decisions with their life. And literally Hashem took almost everything away. And this is a very, very difficult thing to correct. Not only because, it's Hashem gives you a blessing, and when you misuse it, to get the blessing back is not as simple, but also because it's a big ego issue. Many times people, don't want to face the fact that it's their fault they lost. They think it's just bad luck or some other factor. Now, I can tell you one story was explained to my kids just the other day. When I was talking to them about sharing and how important it is to share, because in essence, when a person shares, they're emulating Hashem. They're emulating Hashem because Hashem only gives. He doesn't get anything. He only gives. Everything that we do for ourselves. When we pray, we're praying for our own benefit, not for God's benefit. We're praying for God to give us health, to give us money, to give us food, to give us children, to give us a spouse, to give us success of some kind, to give us health, whatever. We're constantly praying for God to help us. We're not praying for God's sake. It's for our sake. When we learn Torah, we're learning for our own sake. Why? We're learning about what God wants from us. How do we serve Him? How do we, live better lives? What is the blueprint of life, the purpose of life? So we're learning for our benefit. Everything we do for ourselves. God, on the other hand, He is constantly giving us. He doesn't get anything in return. So when a person gives and shares what God gave them, especially if they're sharing in order to fulfill the word of God, sharing to help people that are in a miserable situation, in a financial hardship, in emotional hardship, in a spiritual hardship, and you're helping them, you're in essence emulating God, because you are sharing just like God shares. So this is very, very important. So one of the things that I use as an example for my kids, and it's certainly applicable to adults as well, is the ability that a person has to give chomesh, to give 20% of their income to the Torah. Now, 20% is the maximum a person is allowed to give from their income for anything else, like helping poor people, or things of that nature. But for the Torah, a person can certainly give more than 20%. If they are millionaires, they have more, they have the ability to give more than 20%, they should give more than 20%. But 20% is that line where if somebody gives 20%, the Gaon Mivilna said that they're guaranteed to become rich during their lifetime, and certainly rich enough where they're able to do even more mitzvot. Now, this is something that is not easy, but I've seen it from my own life where, when my first kid was born, this was the beginning of my rabbinical career, and I was just, first, year or two of teaching Torah to the public, and we were in very, very difficult financial situation, literally to the point where we didn't have, money to pay the rent. And I had to, my father, God bless him, and mother would send us money every single month that we were able to survive, just to have food, just to eat, because I had no income source whatsoever. All the money that I had in the business went to the garbage. Lost everything, investments went sour. Long story short, literally got from, the peak of tens of millions of dollars to a complete bottom of the barrel. And of course, my focus was learning Torah. But we got to the point where there was no income source whatsoever because I wasn't working anymore on Wall Street. And all I was interested in doing is just learning Torah. But how do you provide for yourself? So I would pray every month, every day. My wife would pray every month, every day. And Baruch Hashem, our source of income many times was my parents that would help us, and different times would come from different places. But This was at a time where literally to every month was a new miracle. Every month that we were able to pay rent, every month that we had food to eat, every month that we had anything was literally a miracle. We just had our first kid, and it was certainly not easy, and the tests were difficult, especially since I wasn't happy with just getting. I also wanted to give. So what did I do? Whatever I got, I gave 20%. Even back then, I would give myself. So if I got $1,000, $200 gets invested into the Torah, gets sent to Rabbi Ephraim, gets used to buy CDs and and help people do tshuva, gets used to publicize Torah. Yeah, but you yourself barely have something to eat. If God sent me this, He can send me others. As long as I'm doing good and I'm publicizing His Torah, why wouldn't He? And that was the level of dedication that we had. And Baruch Hashem, today we have everything that we need. Baruch Hashem, Yishtabach Shemo La'ad, more than what we need. We're able to help tens of thousands of people every single year, individually, through the organization, feeding them, helping them, help people get married, help people, eat, holidays. And Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu blessed us. And I'm telling you, this is not just a story I'm telling you about other people. I'm telling you from my own life. Yes, there is no guarantee that I'll have anything tomorrow. There's no guarantee I'll even have life tomorrow. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that if the Torah says it, it's 100%. It's 100%. And to go from a place of poverty to millions it's a nice story. It's a nice story. But what people don't realize that it's much more difficult to go from millions to poverty and then get out of it. But it's certainly possible. How? HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do anything that He wants. He can make a person poor. He can make a person rich. He can make a person successful with skills, successful without skills. The key to everything that I'm saying is that instead of praying for a better job, instead of praying for more money, instead of praying for more stuff, give God a reason to give you more stuff. Not with promises, but with actions. With actions. And there are actions that help us, in essence, entice God to give us more stuff. This is not, a bribing God. This is simply first starting out by eliminating the things, the behaviors, and the acts that cause the blessing that He's already giving us to get ruined. So there's a certain spiritual pipe that's connecting you and every single one of us directly to God, where He sends His sustenance to it. So there is, let's say, for example, $1 million that's sent directly to you. But, the person wastes seed. Already, $1 million just got cut to $200,000. He violates Shabbat. Now he's down to $100,000. He also, eats not kosher once a month. Now he's down to $80,000. He also does this and that. He's down to $60,000. Before you know it, the guy's making $50,000 a year. Now, he's not happy with $50,000 a year. He's like, oh God, why isn't God giving me more money? He does. He gave you $1 million, but you ruined it. When you wasted seed, $800,000 out of your money went somewhere else. It went to your enemy. It went to the enemy of Am Yisrael. Hamas got the $800,000. It was supposed to be for you, but you wasted it. When you waste seed, you waste the shefa, the sustenance that Hashem gives you, and waste it. And therefore, the sustenance that He gave you goes and gets wasted to your enemies. So, when a person does the first few things that I mentioned, and fixes their morality issues, fixes their ethical issues, fixes the spiritual issues that they have, already that's going to clean that pipe. And most importantly, it's going to keep that pipe connected to you. To you. Now, when a person does even more than that and also gives chomesh, they are literally making the pipe even bigger and more can come down. But usually one goes with the other, meaning that the more a person is able to invest into the Torah, the more they get the spiritual strength to overcome their flaws. Meaning that person says, listen, if I correct my flaws, then everything's going to be good. Yes, but the problem is that you need new strength that you don't have right now in order to correct those flaws. If you're used to being immoral your whole life, you're used to stealing your whole life, used to going against God your whole life, to just change everything 1, 2, 3 is not so simple. It's not so simple. So a person needs extra angels to help him, extra spiritual soldiers to help him. So when a person already starts investing into the Torah, at the same time they're trying to fix themselves, one feeds the other, one strengthens the other, and little by little they go up together. Little by little everything gets better together. And I've seen this with my own eyes. Like I said, Baruch Hashem, Ishtabach Shemolad, 1.5 million times through my own life, as well as through other people's lives. And it's most important that a person listen to what the Torah says in the book of Deuteronomy, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, after I bless you, don't forget me. And that's unfortunately also something that I've seen in people's lives, where after Hashem blessed them, they forgot Him, or the address changed, and that's a big mistake. So that's why it's very, very important, and that was one of the main points that we covered tonight, which is the importance of gratitude. Gratitude is not just about saying thank you. Gratitude is about constant recognition of the good that God gave you. Whether the good came through the rabbi that got you out of the path of Gehenom and put you on Gan Eden, or it's the good path that is now health, or good path of anything else. Gratitude is a constant behavior. It's not something that you just do one thing, like little kids do, where they say thank you, then 5 minutes later they do the opposite of what the parents did. No. Gratitude is a constant thing, and unfortunately, it's very, very hard to find people that are truly grateful. Very difficult. People, for whatever reason or another, they have short-term memories when it comes to gratitude. They could say thank you in the moment, but it could be a day later, 6 months later, a year later, where they forgot. They forgot to even say thank you. They forgot they have to say thank you. And this is unfortunately one of the biggest things that ruins the blessing that a person has. You know, a person literally that's doesn't know how to say thank you. Just listen to the first hour of this lecture and you'll see what the risk is. Okay, let's see what you guys here on Facebook are saying. See, we're almost done, so I'll answer a couple of your questions. If a non-Jew does not get to go to Olam Haba, does he go to Gehenom to be punished and then get out and die forever? It depends on their actions, what they do, what they didn't do. They could be destroyed, they could go to Gehenom, they could go to Kafakela, they could, reincarnate into all types of things. There's no one size fits all. How can we increase our joy in Adal when the Satan is on the loose murdering people, unless the people do tshuva? Well, like I said just now, if a person wants more people to do tshuva, then they have to do something about it. What's to do something about it? To publicize more Torah, to help more people receive the Torah, to help the organizations that are publicizing Torah have more tools. Right now we are in the process of making a major technological upgrade to our organization, unlike anything else we've ever done, which is in the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars on a regular basis each year, and probably going to get into the millions of dollars. I don't have any idea of how we're going to get all of this money, aside from literally HaKadosh Baruch Hu miraculously giving it to us, but we are already in the process of upgrading certain things, of signing up for certain contracts, and doing some major things that are literally going to be costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then it's a commitment for many, many more. So why am I doing it? Because I know it's needed. It's needed in the world. I'm not doing it because I have it. I'm not doing it because I'm bored. I'm not doing it because I'm looking for more work. I'm doing it because it's needed. And unfortunately, many times people know what's needed, but they don't want to do it themselves. So I had somebody tell me, Rabbi, the people are, not, the world is going against us. There's not enough people that are doing tshuva. What can we do about it? And this is a person that used to do a lot more kiruv. He used to do it literally on a daily basis as part of as his job. And now he decided not to work in it anymore. He decided that he's going to work a different job and do kiruv whenever he gets a chance. So it's you can't really come to a person that dedicates their life to helping people do tshuva and saying, what are we going to do about it, when you decided that you're just going to do it whenever you get a chance. Don't tell me you want to solve the world's problem with minimal effort. If you want to solve big problems, it requires big effort, big investment, big amount of time, big amount of money, big amount of every exertion and sacrifice you can possibly imagine. The more sacrifice, the more you are, in essence, creating opportunities for success. The less sacrifice, the less effort, the less success you're going to have. So if a person thinks about the things that people are thinking or saying, where, there's a big problem in the world, we have to fix it. Fine, you're right, we have to fix it. But big problems need big solutions. You want to solve the ultimate problem, which is people are not following the Torah. Yes, that requires a big solution. So what can you do about it? Not what the system can do about it or what somebody else can do about it. What can you contribute? Are you contributing the most that you can? And every single person that looks in the mirror and asks themselves, are they contributing the most that they can? If the answer is yes, they're a liar. If you're saying that you're contributing the most that you can when you look in the mirror, you're contributing the most that you can for the sake of more people doing tshuva, more people getting closer to Hashem, and you're saying yes, you're a liar, including myself, if I say that's the most I can do. Why? Because there's always more that we can do. There's always more money that we can give. There's always more lectures that we can do. There's always more sacrifice that we can do. There's always more. So none of us are doing the most we can. Question is, are we doing at least a lot in comparison to what we can do? Are we doing a lot, like according to real standards, not according to, pacifying ourselves and nursing ourselves like little babies? Are we really pushing ourselves close to the limits? How close are we to the limit? And each person that asks themselves, certainly that question should encourage a change where you do more than what you're doing right now. If that doesn't cause you to do any more than what you're doing right now, to give more of your time, to give more of your money, to give more of your efforts, more of your dedication to helping people do tshuva, to helping people get closer to Hashem, if you're not doing more as a result of it, that means that you don't really care about that question. You don't really care about that problem. You just are asking the question because it's a topic of conversation in the world. So it's important for a person to push themselves, especially as a Kadosh Baruch Hu is, increasing the effect of the stick of anti-Semitism because we're not doing enough. Can we cut our fingernails in order? Also, can we cut our fingernails and toenails on the same day? The answer to both is yes. If you're asking how come you've heard that it's supposed to be cut in a different order or so on, there's Kabbalists. There's Kabbalists that have teachings that you should do it in a certain order or certain time frames, but we're not Kabbalists. You're not a Kabbalist. Therefore, you could cut like a normal person without being concerned about the order or the doing it on the same day. It's not a problem. If someone is a good person and always says the absolute truth, however, they do not keep Shabbat because they have no understanding of what Shabbat is. After 120, will they eventually end up in heaven? No, they will go to Gehinnom forever. Why? Because they're not saying the absolute truth. Because if they are not following the laws of God, that means they're living a lie, and they are a liar about who gave them life, who gave them sustenance, and in essence, they are living a lie, thinking that they're good. And anyone that thinks that just because they may not have lied to you, or at least you haven't caught them lying to you, that makes them a person that is always good. It's simply not true. Someone that's forsaking God is certainly not a person that is, always good to people. If he forsakes God, he also does the same thing to people. He may not have done it to you, but he certainly has done it, or she has certainly done it to other people. And the same thing goes for any other type of sin that's of significant magnitude. Now, a person that's alive can read the Torah and see what it says. It says that a Jew has to keep Shabbat. A Jew that came to the world because Hashem decided for him to come to the world. If a person says, no, but I don't believe it's true, then that means that they don't believe in God. So they believe that God's a liar. If they believe God's a liar, then obviously they're a liar. So that's it. It's not, that doesn't make them honest. It just means that you haven't caught them in a lie. That's all it means. If someone's husband or wife is distant in the relationship and just basically quit on the relationship, became neglectful, what can the person do? The person has to evaluate their own actions to see what they have done in order to bring this on and what they're doing in order to improve things. Because many times communication is the primary cause for marriage problems. People are not communicating. They're not communicating or they're miscommunicating, meaning that every time the wife is in front of him, all he's communicating about is the fact that he wants her to do stuff for him. He wants it to cook, he wants it to clean, he wants it to go to the store for him, but he never communicates by giving her a compliment, by saying thank you, by saying I love you, by anything. He just communicates to her like she's a fast food restaurant. But the same thing goes with women. Many times women says, "What? I do everything for him. How come he's doesn't care about me?" No, it's because every time he's in front of you, yes, maybe you gave him some food, but along with the food came an hour of complaints about your friends, your family, your weight, your foot pain, your hair is not this. It's an hour of complaints, and there's no person on earth that likes complaints, but guys hate complaints even more so. So when a woman, yes, maybe she gives food, but the food comes with an hour of complaints, it ruins the relationship. Or there's only requests, where as soon as the husband comes home, honey, I need this, I need this, I need. She's treating her husband like he's an app, like an Amazon app, and she keeps clicking on things to order. So the husband, starts feeling like, what am I, some donkey? Like, why didn't she say, like, how was your day? Or just, let me just be in peace. Like, just don't ask for anything. So it's important for a person to know that communication is not just about saying thank you and I love you. Sometimes communication is simply not ruining communication or miscommunicating or treating each other like you work for each other. Many times there's issues where somebody feels disrespected, where they feel like just because they don't have a certain level of success, their spouse doesn't respect them, or just because they don't look a certain way, their spouse doesn't respect them or love them or think they're pretty or think they're man enough or wife enough. So many times the issues that happen between husband and wife are miscommunication, but it's not just miscommunication of he cursed me, I'm not going to forgive him, she cursed my mother, I'm not forgiving her. It's not just that. There's also simply misusing your time with each other. Misusing your time with each other. You have to designate time to have like a meeting about stuff you need, stuff he needs. The rest of the time should be about just common conversation. How was your day? How was your day? Can I help you with something? Can I? Do you want to talk about something? Don't use each other like Amazon apps. Just pressing buttons and asking for things, or needless to say, some wall to cry on constantly. Don't be a complaining machine. Why? Because nobody likes a complainer, especially if the person works all day with customers that are also complaining all day. This is one of the most difficult parts of business. You have to hear people's complaints nonstop. So a person that hears people's complaints, customers, vendors, all types of co-workers, bosses, complain all day, they know they need to do it because they need to make a living. But the last thing they want is more of that when they get home. That's why a lot of people end up watching TV or going on the internet for 500 hours in a row, because they're literally escaping the world of complaints they live. So if you make your home into a beautiful place where you're able to learn together, you're able to communicate about subjects that are not complaining, subjects that are not requesting, but rather, how are you doing? How's the just different things, intellectual conversations, things that are interesting to both of you, that don't require him or her to constantly do something, then this could help. This could help a lot. And of course, again, the stuff that you need, the groceries you need to buy, the garbage that needs to go out, all that other stuff, whatever you can't do yourself, make a time during the week, once a week, maybe twice a week if really necessary, where you talk about this stuff. But it definitely should not be every single day, and certainly not as soon as they come home, and even more so, not as soon as they want to go learn Torah, and even more so times 3, not right before they want to go to sleep. You have to pick a time where this is. Now, if you do it this way, and obviously nobody wants a time where they're just going to hear requests and complaints, but if they know this is the one time a week, that's where it's going to be, it's worth it. Why? Because the rest of the week I'm going to have peace of mind. The rest of the week I can learn in peace. The rest of the week I can have conversations without thinking that every word of mine is being measured. It's the rest of the week is pleasant. The rest of the week is pleasant, and that makes life much better. Unfortunately, many times couples turn each other into secretaries and clerks. Secretaries, clerks, and slaves. And this ruins the relationship. This is the reason why a woman is going to talk to another guy. This is the reason why a guy is going to talk to another girl. Why? Because their spouse is their pretty much source of complaints and requests. And this new person doesn't ask for anything. They don't ask for anything. They don't want anything from them. They're not asking them for them to go throw out the garbage. They're not asking for them, to go to the store at in the middle of the night to go buy them a laundry machine. What are they asking for? How you doing? You want to hang out? You want to have a coffee? You want to talk about something? So unfortunately, what happens here is that this so-called platonic relationship becomes an atomic relationship and becomes immorality. But it starts with the person needing somebody that's not what they have. Why? Because what they have, it's annoying. It's miserable. It's no peace of mind. It's a constant source of complaints and requests and misery. And it's so that's also the reason why, people take vacations with their friends and not with their spouses. Certainly it's wrong. You should never take a vacation with your friends and not with your spouse. It should always be together. But the problem is, because all of the misery that people have is together, they don't connect fun with them anymore. When he thinks of fun, he thinks of his friends. When she thinks of fun, she thinks of her friends. Why? Because her friends don't ask her for anything. They don't ask her to cook. They don't ask her to clean. They don't ask her to take the kids to the school. They don't ask her to do anything. They ask her, you want to go have a coffee? Oh, okay, yeah, I'll go have a coffee. Same thing with the guy. His friends don't ask him, listen, can you buy me this? Can you do this? Can you talk to me until I fall asleep? They don't ask about all those things. Can you tell me what you think about my mother? Can you tell me what you think about my sister for the 75th time? They don't ask them for that. What do they ask? They ask, hey, you want to go have a drink? Want to go have a drink? Yeah, sure, we'll have a drink. So what happens is, he starts relating fun stuff with the friends. She starts relating fun stuff with the friends. And problems, misery, boredom, in so many words, life sucks with their spouse. And this continues on and on and on. So the solution to that is, 1, make a date for problems. Problems, requests, that's once a week, once a month. The more developed your relationship is, the less often it's going to be. Why the less often? It's not because there's less problems, but rather because the more developed your relationship is, the more you know already what the issue is, and you solve it without the other person asking. You already know to throw the garbage out. You don't need your wife to tell you. You already know to cook at this time, cook at this day, clean this, go there, do that. Already, you want to help each other. You're in it to help each other. You're in it to constantly help each other rather than to ask for help. It's also an opposite mentality where a successful relationship is when people want to give, not take. today, the vast majority of relationships fail because people are in the relationship in order to get stuff. They look at relationships like an Amazon store, like a Walmart. What can I get from him? What can I get from her? What can she do for me? That's a relationship that's going to be miserable, and most likely either will stay miserable or will end before it becomes super miserable, because it's a relationship of taking. When you're in a relationship of giving, constantly giving, not asking, constantly giving, that's a relationship will develop into something where literally you'll have less problems, less types of times where you need to discuss problems, because you're solving the problems as you go, because you're constantly looking to give. Give. If I want to give, what's his problem now? His problem is hungry. Okay, so I'm going to make food. What's the problem now? His problem is that he needs some time alone because he's focused on something. Okay, so I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to take care of the kids. I'm going to give him some time alone. Honey, I'm going to go take the kids to my mother, and you study. You go learn Torah with your rabbi. You go do your thing. Oh, honey, thank you so much. Why? No, I'm going to help you. No. I want you to study. I want you to focus on that. I'm going to clean and do this. Why? Because I want you to be, to focus on things, to be happy. I want to make you happy. And when a person is in a relationship to give, the problems get solved along the way. You won't have to have this once a week meeting. Now, if you're having everyday meetings about problems, your relationship is terrible. Your communication is terrible. So the first thing is, have this thing once a week until it gets developed to the point where you don't need to do it once a week at all. It's literally once in a blue moon. Second thing is, especially if it's a new relationship, have date night. What's date night? Simply, go on a date without talking about problems, without talking about things you don't like, without talking about things he doesn't like. Don't bring up your mother. Don't invite anyone to it. Simply, you, just like when you were, on a shidduch, dating, new, excited, that. Go to a place where there's no problems. It's important to do that. Why? Because number one, it's going to become more and more difficult to do that as you have kids. Number two, it's something that's healthy for a relationship to do. Now, as life develops, you're not necessarily going to be able to do it every single week, but certainly it should be once in a while. Sometimes date night is to go to a coffee shop. Sometimes it's to go to just to the supermarket together, but without the kids. Sometimes it's literally date night where you're having coffee and the kids are sleeping, and you're having coffee and you're just talking for an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is together. Date night can be all forms, all types. Doesn't necessarily need to be at the 47th floor of some restaurant in Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. Date night can be all types of things. But the point is to spend quality time, not complaining time, not annoying time, not time that you yourself would not find fun if it was being done to you. So it's important for a person to have a date for that also. The third thing is learn Torah together. If a couple learns Torah together, they watch a shiur together, even if it's only 15 or 30 minutes a day, but they watch it together, it will develop the relationship. Why? Because you're now connecting your souls, your neshamot together. When you connect your neshamot together, you will not only get the same teachings, but you also start connecting your ideology together. You're connecting your mindset together. And even though you'll have one perception and he'll have one perception, she'll have one perception, you'll have one perception, the key is that you'll develop them together. And that will connect you and help the relationship dramatically. This is something that's a foolproof system that I've seen over the years, that I've recommended to many, many couples. Every single couple, Baruch Hashem, that has ever actually done it, like I told them to do it, every single couple helped. Every single couple without fail. Couples that it failed with, the couples that didn't do it. So it never really failed. They failed. They didn't want to do it, or they stopped. They started it, then they stopped, so obviously it's not going to work. So it's invest time in learning Torah together. Time for complaining, time for having fun together, date night, some type of thing. Number 3, learning Torah together. Number 4, intimacy is a very, very important matter in Judaism. A relationship without intimacy is not a relationship. It's boyfriend, girlfriend that are imaginary. Why? Because in Judaism, intimacy is of critical importance. During the time of where a woman is pure, after she went to the mikveh, the couple needs to be intimate. How often? That all depends. if he's a Torah scholar, if he's a worker, if he is a half and half. It all depends. But the reality is, younger people need usually much more than older. But needless to say, everyone needs to be intimate. Whether you're in the mood, not in the mood, you have to get yourself in the mood. And that's why I recommend for people to learn the Jewish Intimacy series together. The husband and wife learn the Jewish intimacy together, because that's going to help you understand the purpose of intimacy and how it can become much more pleasurable, not just through the physical aspect of it, but also the spiritual aspect of it and the life part of it. It's Jewish intimacy based on the teachings of the Torah, teachings of the Ramban, holiness, attaining holiness. But also, holiness doesn't mean no fun. Holiness doesn't mean less fun. The opposite, it means more fun, more good. But a person needs to understand that intimacy is very, very important. Many times people say, well, we were together last month. What, you were together one time? Fine, listen, for some guys, that's enough, one time a month. But your guy may need 10 times a month. Your guy may need 15 times a month. So you can't just say, no, we were together once, and no, it's not just based about what you need. It's also about what they need. Same thing with the opposite. Sometimes the guy said, no, we were together last month. I was with her a couple of times. Fine, but maybe your wife needs 10 times. Maybe she needs, you have to understand that it's not just based on your needs. If a person is in a relationship to take, then they're going to be in a position where it's only about what they need. If they're in a relationship to give, they're going to constantly think about what their spouse needs. If you're constantly focused on what your spouse needs, guess what? You're going to be right every time of how often to be together. How often to be together. And it's very, very important for a person to know that sometimes, and it's not just sometimes like once in a blue moon, but it's going to happen probably every single month and even more than once a month, where one of you is not going to be in the mood to be together, but the other one will be. And guess what? If you're in a path of fixing, improving, building, perfecting this relationship, what you want becomes completely irrelevant. They want to be together, you fix yourself and get yourself into the position, into the mindset of, I want to do this. Not because I'm in the mood physically, but rather because I want to make him or I want to make her happy. I want to make him, I want to make her happy. Because I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it because I love him or I love her, whatever it is, you're male or female. So it's important for a person to know that it's not just about you. In fact, it's not about you at all. The less the relationship is about you, the more successful the relationship is going to be. The more the relationship is about you, the more difficulties you're going to have in your relationship. 99% of all the problems are because people want pretty much their way in a relationship, and that becomes their priority number one, number two, and number three. And if they have any time after they've fulfilled all of their own desires, maybe they'll make some room for somebody else's desires, somebody else's needs, somebody else's wants. And that's unfortunately a recipe for a miserable life. So it's important for a person to do all of these different things. Certainly there's many, many more things that a person can work on, can develop, which we discuss in the Jewish Intimacy series. But I can assure you, if you do these few things that I just mentioned, it will improve your life, your marriage, a millionfold. Whatever relationship, whatever status your relationship is right now, you can certainly improve it. Unless it's too late, where it already got to a point where there's a divorce. But if you're still together, you can still fix it. And BeEzrat HaShem, everybody will be able to fix their relationships, both with their spouse and their kids, and most importantly with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you very much for learning with me. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless each and every single one of you that's learning with us, that's supporting us. Anyone that wants to donate can go and donate on our website, bhtorah.org or BeEzratHashem.org, or you could send a check, or you could donate through subscribing on YouTube. There's a paid subscriber version. You could also donate on Facebook. In so many words, if you want to donate, there's plenty of ways to do it. If you want to do the 20%, we could also set that up. Either way, we need as much help as possible from you guys to become our partners so we could do these major things that are going to be brought to the Jewish world unlike anything else you've ever seen. And it's certainly the recipe for success at our tops. And BeEzrat HaShem will be able to continue printing more books, doing more lectures, everything for free. Oh, and last but not least, anyone that wants USBs or books for free to distribute in their Jewish community, go to the kiruv.org or kiruvstore.org, and you can order over there free stuff. We even pay for shipping as long as it's in the US or in Canada. Thank you very much for learning with me. BeEzrat HaShem, we'll learn together soon. Kol tu b'chab hatzlacha.